History isn't always made in grand explosions. Sometimes, it changes in quiet seconds, in small decisions nobody notices, until it's too late. In the summer of 1914, in a city most of Europe had never even heard of, a single wrong turn by a quiet, loyal driver shifted the entire course of human history. This is the story of Leopold Loika, the man whose hands were on the wheel when destiny reached into the car and pulled the world into war. He wasn't a politician, he wasn't a soldier, he was just a driver, a man trying to do his job, and in the moment he took a turn he wasn't supposed to take, everything broke. Leopold Loika wasn't born into power or privilege. He grew up in Moravia, land of fields, farms, and silence. To most people, he was invisible, a quiet boy who liked machinery, a worker with steady hands who believed that precision meant respect. He became a chauffeur not because it paid well, but because engines made sense to him. Unlike people, engines were honest. If something rattled, something was wrong. If something hummed, everything was right. In 1914, he was assigned to drive the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a serious, cautious man who trusted very few people. But he trusted Loika because Loika drove with absolute discipline, eyes forward, posture straight, hands steady. He never spoke unless spoken to. He never questioned orders, he never improvised, he just followed the route, exactly. June 28, 1914, Sarajevo. The Archduke was there for an official visit. It was meant to be routine, a show of presence, a demonstration of stability. But the city was tense. A handful of young extremists had planned something desperate, violent, and doomed. Loika didn't know any of that. His job was simple: drive the Archduke, stay alert, follow the route, and trust the escorts. The morning began normally. Crowds gathered, flags waved, soldiers marched. Then, the first attack. A bomb was thrown at the Archduke's car. It bounced off the folded roof, rolled under the next vehicle, and exploded, sending metal, glass, and screams into the air. The Archduke was shaken. His wife, Sophie, was shaken. The officers were shaken. But Loika stayed calm. He stepped on the gas, accelerated out of the danger zone, and brought the car to safety. It should have ended there. The sensible decision was clear: cancel the rest of the visit, leave the city immediately, fly the flag of caution, not bravery. But Franz Ferdinand refused. He insisted on visiting the officers who were wounded in the hospital. He wanted to show strength. He wanted to prove he wasn't afraid, and that meant the route had to be changed. The new plan was delivered verbally. There was no written map, no updated orders, just spoken instructions, passed from a general to an officer, to an aide, to another aide, and finally, to Loika, a man who always followed the plan, a man whose greatest strength was obedience. Loika climbed back into the open-top Graf and stiffed touring car. The Archduke and Sophie sat behind him. The governor of Bosnia sat beside him. Soldiers lined the street, crowds watched in silence, and the convoy began to move. They drove down the Appel Quay, past the river, heading toward the hospital. Except, no one had told the officer in the lead car that the route had changed. He continued along the original plan straight ahead, and Loika, out of habit, training, and discipline, followed the lead car. And then, it happened. A single intersection, a single moment. The lead car turned right onto Franz Joseph Street, the old route. Loika followed. A few seconds passed before the Archduke's aide shouted, "Loika, stop, you're going the wrong way." Loika slammed on the brakes. The engine coughed. The tires skidded. The car lurched to a halt in front of a small corner cafe, right where a young man named Gavrilo Princip was standing. He had abandoned the assassination attempt earlier that morning. His team had failed. He believed the mission was over. He was sad, exhausted, and ready to accept defeat. He walked to the cafe to buy a sandwich, just for a few minutes to breathe, to forget. And then he looked up and saw the Archduke's car, stalled just inches away from him. An impossible alignment, a nightmare of coincidence, a moment no strategist could ever design. He stepped forward. He fired 2 shots. Sophie, Franz Ferdinand, then silence. A silence that spread from that street corner to every capital city in Europe, like a contagion. Loika froze. His hands were locked on the wheel. Time shattered into fragments. He heard screaming, footsteps, shouts. Officers tackled the assassin. Bystanders panicked. Blood pooled on the leather seats. The Archduke's voice broke the air. "Sophie, Sophie, "Don't die. Live for our children." But she didn't, and neither did he. Loika helped lift their bodies. His gloves were soaked in blood. His breath was sharp and shallow. He hadn't pulled a trigger. He hadn't planned anything. He hadn't decided anything. He had simply followed the lead car, a reflex born of discipline, a reflex that aligned with the one assassin still in position, a reflex that opened the door to war. The assassination detonated Europe's complex network of alliances. Austria blamed Serbia. Russia backed Serbia. Germany backed Austria. France backed Russia. Britain was pulled in with France. The Ottoman Empire joined Germany, and their global colonies were dragged in with them. Mobilizations, ultimatums, declarations of war, one wrong turn, at one intersection, in one city, ignited a chain reaction that consumed the entire world. World War I killed millions, collapsed empires, redrew borders, created devastating economic crises, and set the stage for World War II. It shaped the century that followed. And it didn't begin with strategy or diplomacy. It began with geography. Two lines intersecting, a driver following instinct. A split second, Loika went home after the war began. But he was not the same man. Newspapers wrote about the assassination, and journalists searched for someone to blame. Rumors spread that he had been careless, that he had deliberately taken the wrong street. People whispered. He carried the weight silently. He said little. He kept working as a driver, because that was all he knew. But he avoided Sarajevo for the rest of his life. He avoided intersections that looked too similar. He avoided silence, because silence was where the memory lived. He died in 1926, not yet 40 years old. Some said it was the guilt. Some said it was illness. Some said the world had simply taken too much from him. But those who knew him said he remained a gentle, modest, and haunted man. A man blamed for a war he never wanted and never understood. History books like clean explanations. Assassination causes war. Political tensions erupt. Leaders make decisions. But history is rarely clean. Sometimes, it turns because a bomb misses, because a map is wrong, because someone shouts an order too late, because a driver does what he always does until someone says stop. History rarely turns at the hands of the powerful. More often, it turns at the hands of the ordinary. People like Leopold Loika. People just following routines, making small, human mistakes. And sometimes, those mistakes echo forever. Leopold Loika never asked to stand at the center of history. He never wanted influence. He never imagined the world could hinge on one of his decisions. He was a worker, a chauffeur, a man who believed that duty meant precision, and precision meant safety. But on one summer morning, in a crowded city, with crowds watching and orders changing, he followed the wrong car at the wrong moment, and the world crossed a point of no return, not because he chose it, but because history is fragile. It bends around silence, it bends around coincidence, and it bends around people who never expect to leave a mark. And Loika, the quiet man from Moravia, left one of the deepest marks of all. So the question isn't just how a single driver changed history. The real question is, how many moments in our own lives are one small decision away from changing everything? Because sometimes, the world doesn't turn on purpose. Sometimes, it turns by accident. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. See you in the next one.